Hey everyone, I am Parks Valletta, and you are watching Hollywood Real with Jay Menez.
So good to have you, Rob.
Nice. Jay, good to see you as always.
I feel like this conversation is so long overdue.
Yes, I feel like it has been a very crazy journey, and I've known you for a long time now, but in general, the journey has changed so much from when you first met me to where it is now. Yeah.
On both sides, right?
Every side, on every side, from the base core of what I would say is the most important as a human to the career, everything has changed. Yeah.
Well, we grow and evolve.
Hopefully.
Our
Hopefully we grow.
change. Yeah, hopefully for the better, right?
If we're trying to do our job, yeah, we hopefully change. Yeah.
Well, as you know, this show is about exploring our guests' journeys and what they learned from the adversity in their lives, and most importantly, the lessons that they could pass on to our audience here. So I want to go back kind of to the early days and talk about your family and your early interest in acting.
So, I mean, it started out, I grew up in San Diego. I had 3 older sisters, full transparency. So my real dad was my biological, married 6 times, lots of daughters. So I had 3 sisters. My mom remarried when I was 4 to an amazing man.
Is your dad the Parks or the Valletta?
My dad's Parks. So when people ask, like, Robert Parks Valletta, where does that come from? Well, I grew up, my name is Robbie Glenn Anthony Valletta. That was my birth name. And then my stepdad raised me, who I call my dad, because I forget that he is not my dad. That's the type of man he is. When I was in high school, I was like, I want to be called Parks. I want to take his name. So then I was Robbie Parks. And then that, Robbie's, the transitions of Robbie's as Robbie to Robert to a Rob, whatever that goes. And so now, it is Robert Parks Valletta because it's, I realized one thing, that it is tough out here. And every advantage you can take, you take advantage of it and you work on it. And luckily my sister has been working her tail off out here and has found some success out here. And I saw that in the very beginning, it helped. Did it ever book me anything? No. Because it doesn't matter the relationships you have to do the work at the end of the day.
You're talking about your sister Amber's
My sister
success?
Amber, yeah. My sister Amber had a lot of success out here as a model, now an actress. But it always came back down to the same thing. It doesn't matter. Well, I guess it does help if it's like Steven Spielberg is your dad or something at that point. I think at that point you get a little more help than most. But in general, you have to be good and you have to do the work across the board.
For sure.
And it doesn't matter who you're related to and who you know. Doors will open. It's your job to walk through the door and do a good job. But my journey started. I was in San Diego. Went to college at Long Beach State, and that's where I got into theater at first, and was playing sports at Long Beach. And really, I think that was where I initially was like, I'm an artist in whatever capacity that is. I'm an artist. I like to create. I like to be in these worlds, and I like to do that. And so that's where my journey started. And then my senior year in college, I asked my sister for an agent. She saw a play, and she goes, I was like, hey, do you think I have it? She said, come take a shot. Worked with her manager. He got me my very first audition, which was for Tarzan, my senior year in college. And I basically got to the very end of Tarzan. And they just said, he's green. He's good, but he's green. I was like, what is this green word everybody keeps talking about? I'm like, I don't know what green is. I'm Italian, I'm tan. But that was a bad joke. But it was literally, it was like, that was my journey. So my journey started out was, I had a little help getting a manager. But long story short, moved out to LA right after I graduated, never booked anything with the manager. The manager at the time, he was with some really big clients. And I wasn't booking. So he's like, hey, I got to let you go. So I was out in LA, no agent, no manager, equal with basically everybody else out here. And then I just started doing the grind. And that grind was, got a job, a real job, and was working at nighttime at bars and restaurants like everybody else was. And One night I was out at the restaurant and I crossed paths with this guy and I looked at him. I was like, I know you. And I go, Sachs? And he goes, Parks? And that's how long and it was my friend from middle school. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm out here to be a manager. And he's like, I'm out here to be an actor. He goes, you want to be my first client? And I was all, yes. And so that's the story of how I got my first manager. And then from there, that next year was good. We started out slow and, I got on Young and the Restless, got on Days of Our Lives over the first course of my 2 years. And it was just all from being in class every day, working and going. And it's transitioned now to where I think I've done about 30 network television shows as a co-star, guest star, or recurring. And that's been my path. And obviously over the last 2 years, that all changed. But that's kind of was my journey in Hollywood.
So you're talking about Aaron Sachs.
Aaron Sachs.
Yeah, let's plug him a little bit.
Yeah.
What's his management?
So Aaron works at Bohemian, and they're a really strong talent agency. Literally, I was his first client. Now I think he has 25 clients. He was working with, so many great people. Like Oscar Nunez from The Office, he was working with him over at Omnipop before he went there, and now he just has some great clients. And it's a really, the manager. It's so interesting nowadays because a manager is different than what a manager was even 6-7 years ago. A manager now is almost like an extension of your agent. A manager 5-6 years ago was really someone that's managing your life, your career, all the little minute details. Now it's almost kind of like having two agents.
Does he still get involved in that kind of those other parts of your life also?
Whether I like it or not, yes, he does. Yeah.
But
it's also because I've been friends with him now since middle school. So it's like, our definition of manager is almost like, have you seen The Star Is Born? A Star Is Born?
The new one?
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
so it's almost like his brother who is his manager. It's like that, where it's like they're so in your life, but it's also because they're basically family. So it's like that type of relationship. We're all in.
You might have been able to play that role.
Bradley Cooper, yeah. I'm like his stunt double. I'm his stand-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like his chubbier stand-in.
Brilliant. Yeah. Can you sing though?
No. I was just standing in.
Well, we've got coaches for that.
We got coaches for that.
Yeah.
So Aaron's been manager this whole time, and it's been a ride. It's been a wild little ride.
Yeah. What would you say your big first break was?
Days of Our Lives was my first break.
How did you land that?
Auditioning. Yeah. So I first went and auditioned with Mark Teschner. He sent me out to New York to go test for One Life to Live. Didn't get it. And then what I did was I auditioned for Days of Our Lives for a main role. Got all the way to the end, tested, didn't get it. And then they called 2 weeks later and said, hey, you didn't get the role because we gave it back to the person that was coming back onto the show that was already on the show for years. But we have another role for you. We think you'd be great at it. It's going to be like 5-6 episodes. You in? I'm in. And so that was kind of my first initial being on set a lot. And I realized that soap opera acting is the hardest acting in the entire industry. Hands down. The hardest. Because you're getting 30 pages a day and you're saying memorize 30 pages a day. And if you're new, you have to be verbatim. And so it is a whole different challenge, but it is why a lot of these soap opera actors are so good at auditioning and so good at just memorizing because you have to. And so that was that. And then went from there. And then I did another thing with Young and the Restless where I did 10 episodes on that. And then they brought me on to the actual Young and the Restless, the show. And so that kind of steamrolled into just getting it. And that was sort of like the break of realizing okay, I can work out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think the least understood thing is about soap opera acting?
The reason why people say it's it's cheesy, it's this. It's not cheesy. You get 2 takes and that's it. And a lot of actors know that it's about repetition. It's about getting your lines, memorizing it, having an interaction, talking about it. What's our intent? What's our emotion? How are we connecting? In soap opera acting, it's This is my gut feeling of how I feel about this. We might not have had a chance to read it back and forth. Let's go. There were days I was about to do a scene, a monologue this thick and just like, da-da-da-da, and action. I'm all, anyways, so this is what it's about. Memorizing my lines. I'm like, but it's like, you can't mess up. So it's like, and so it's you have to just trust your gut. And so when you're shooting 30 to 60 pages a day, you get what you get. But it's also, think about it. What's the most you think you've ever shot in one day on a project?
Got it. Pages? Maybe a dozen.
Yeah. And if you can get a dozen in a day, you're killing it.
Yeah.
30 to 60 is unheard of.
Wow.
So they crank out. And it was just a really good learning curve of like, okay, do your work. And at the core of all this, of everything, it's always just do your work.
How new were you at the time? Were you're just thrown into the fire with this sort of workload?
I was a year and a half in. So it took a year and a half to book anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you kept at it.
Yeah, kept at it. I was in acting classes and working and honing my craft, and took a year and a half, yeah.
What do you think the best advice you have is for new actors trying to break into their first big role?
Man, and what I always say is your first big role is it's perspective. There, I always just say, be good. Whatever you do, just be good.
How do you be good?
Practice, do the work, do the homework. I know that in my life, when, I was working, I was doing the work. I was going to acting classes. I was rehearsing. I was auditioning for plays. I was auditioning for things that weren't my job supposedly as an actor, but your job is just to do the work. And I also know the years that I wasn't working a lot, I was having fun. I was out hanging out with my friends, going to the beach, doing this. I wasn't doing my job. And so when I always just say, if you want to do that, you have to put the work in. And if people are always like, oh, well, I don't have any auditions, what's the work? Well, what do you want to be? Really, what do you want to be? Do you want to be an actor? Do you want to be a filmmaker? Do you want to be a writer? If you do the work, if you look at what the people who are, Bradley Cooper, going back to this, wrote, directed, and wrote the songs as well for A Star Is Born. He did the work. Do you know how much work that takes to even do one of those? And so I always say, if you do the work, if you don't have anything to do, or if you're having this questioning of what am I going to do in my life, as far as I should be here, or this whole the perspective of where should I be right now, you have to do the little things. When I say do the work, if you don't know what the work is, start writing a script. Start learning how to edit. Start learning how to do sound. Learn the industry inside and out, because the journey of where you're at now, you have no idea, but you'll wake up 8 years later and you'll be like, oh, that's why I learned how to do that, and that. That's why I met that person. That's why I got a divorce. That's why this person broke up with me. Because all those little things in between all happen to a reason to why where you're at now. So your work is doing the little things that you don't think are work. That's the work.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
I always tell actors that if you're not getting booked for things, between going to class and studying and doing the work, that you really have to create your own work.
100%.
And I see that you've done that, at least in the time that I've known you. You're always out there, collaborating with other actors, a lot of filmmakers, and just going into things, even if it's not paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Majority of the industry is not paid. If I told you how much I made over the first 7 years of my career, it's comical. And those are on projects. But we are in an amazing time right now where content is king. You have the ability to become an influencer, a content creator, or this, but it all goes back down to the same thing. Did you do the work? Who's going to shoot the content? Who's going to edit the content? And so if there's a roadblock that's stopping you, either partner with people who are good at that or learn how to do it yourself. Because all these influencers on Instagram right now, they know how to edit and shoot. That's a start.
Yeah.
Who knows where that shooting is going to go? Maybe you wanted to be an actor. It's not your journey. I wanted to have Bradley Cooper's career, but I love my journey. That's not what my journey is. And that's the powerful thing about this. Like, you have to make your own content because you don't know where that content's going to lead.
Speaking of social media influencers, what role does that play for the actor these days, especially the newer actor, and getting their name out?
It's changed. It's changed. I know that specifically firsthand because now I even look for hosts that have influence because it's all a numbers thing. Everything is all analytics. So social media, what it has done, it has really propelled certain people and given them opportunities. But it always goes back to my first part. Unless you've done the work, it doesn't matter how many social media unless you've done the work, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, how many people interact with you. It's all about, are you good? Can I put you on set and can you deliver what I need you to deliver?
So the following will just get you in the door.
Just get you in the door. That's it. And it's, you can make enough money off Instagram. And I have these conversations all the time with influencers who are always like, yeah, I'm making like $20,000 a month and I don't know, it's great, but I really want to do movies. Okay. You are getting more money than 95% of the people in SAG. It's a perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's also this other perspective too of we always want what we can't have type thing. But I'm like, embrace what you have and figure out a way with what you have to make what you want to do. If you want to be in a movie, make a movie. You have the influence. You made $20,000 last month. You can make a movie for $20,000.
Yeah.
But it's the perspective of, unless I get cast in a movie, unless I make my own movie, unless I get cast in a movie, it's not a real thing. Why? So it's just, I feel like everybody's perspective is what ruins their journey. You have to take a different perspective, and that perspective is sort of what makes you have a successful journey.
Not long ago, it was popular to just cast people based on their influence, their social media influence, without much regard for if they could actually perform, act.
Yeah, and that has shifted. I think that there was a big surge of that, especially they played a lot of that in sort of like the comedy movies. There you saw a lot of these cameos of these big social media influencers. Some of them couldn't hang and some of them couldn't, but it didn't turn the knob on whether one movie made more money or not. Yeah. It never really did.
So that following didn't necessarily translate
to
into
a return on investment. It never really did. I mean, I think there's moments it might have done a little things, but I still think that one of the most impressive things that influencers have done right now is they have taken their following and realized what their following truly wants. So here's a perfect example of sort of how social media influencers who probably want to be in movies and do these type of things have found a way to really become successful at what they're doing. So Logan Paul and KSI are two YouTubers that started a beef online, and then they decided, hey, look, let's turn this beef into reality. They got a stadium. Maybe it held like 15,000 people or something like that.
Do you think it was a real beef?
It was a real beef. Yeah, they were really just going back and forth, like YouTube back and forth, and they started a boxing match. They pumped it up. They almost generated about $1 million, if not more, on this online pay-per-view. They use their influence to generate revenue in a way that their audience wants. So Logan Paul has been in movies. It never turned the knob of whether the movie did that, because I don't think their audience really, they know Logan for being Logan, and Logan playing a character is different. And I think that's still where the difference is right now. I think that is navigating it. People are navigating it. I think people watch Johnny Depp movies because Johnny Depp can play a character, and we never know what that character is going to be. And so he's established himself as like an entity. And I think when you look at these YouTubers or influencers, you just see them for them. And sometimes until they break the mold of being a character, I don't know. It's a whole new thing. It's a whole new world. Yeah.
Yeah. What you're talking about, if I understand correctly, is creating that personal brand for yourself.
Yeah, it's creating your brand and you realizing how you can use that brand to make what you want to make. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So how can you make your influence into what you want to do with your career?
How does an actor strategically create that personal brand for himself?
Every journey is so different. Every journey is so different, but it always starts with creating content. Bottom line, pictures are content, videos are content, short films are content. I think where the biggest thing that most actors struggle with is like, I want to make a short film, I don't have the money to make it. That's the overall number one big thing. And I understand that one. That's a hard one. How do you do that? How do I make a short film if it's going to cost me $15,000 and I don't have the money for it? Well, then you know where your work starts? Getting 2 jobs, getting 3 jobs. That's your work. If you want to work for the thing that you want to work for, but you don't know how to get it, ask questions and work your ass off. You need to raise $5,000 to make a short film? Where's it going to come from? You. You are the one that's going to generate it. So no one's going to do the work for you. That's the one thing I learned about in this industry. No one's going to do the work for you.
Gary Vee talks a lot about not so much thinking about it as creating content, which it takes some forethought, but documenting instead.
Yeah.
And he goes out there, of course, he's got a guy who follows him around, seems like 24/7. And they've
You're following the journey. You vlog the journey. I think that's an interesting thing that Gary Vee touches on. I would agree with you, is they touch on, no one wants to see, what people want to see now where it has changed is, how did Michael B. Jordan become Michael B. Jordan? Imagine if we saw his journey every 6 months of what happened in the last 6 months to where he is now. And that's vlogging. And that's another interesting part is like people want to know the journey. And that's another way to interact. It doesn't cost you anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like creating or really just filming the narrative of your own life, of your own journey in this. And it's very interesting because you get the ups and the downs of that journey.
Yeah, and it's everybody. Perfect example, I've known Michael B. Jordan now for 11 years. We were in a basketball league together and we've been friends ever since. And his whole thing, his journey was, there was a part where he wanted to quit. Friday Night Lights happened. He wasn't getting auditions. He didn't know what he was going to do. He wanted to quit. And he was like, I don't know, man, I'm just not making it. Fast forward, but we all hear these stories. Right. Every single actor, every single director, every single screenwriter, every single editor, whatever it is, we all have this self-doubt that we're like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I think everybody does. Yeah. And I think it's until you change your perspective on that, which is what's your idea of making it? That's when you start having success.
So was there ever a moment when you thought about quitting? Seriously?
Yeah.
How did you work through that?
4 years ago.
Tell me about that.
This was when around when people see you guest star or co-star on a TV show or these type of things, they're like, oh, you must be killing it. You make $7,500 for a guest star on a TV show or $10,000 depending on the show. After your agents, managers, and taxes and all this stuff, like that's not even enough to pay your rent sometimes and bills. So the perspective of what the industry gives you is far less than the reality of what the industry gives you. And so I just got to the point where I was like turning my wheels. I'm like, this is not enough. How am I ever going to provide? How am I ever going to be a person who can like settle down and get married? And I ended a relationship. I was dating this amazing girl, Joanna, who had it all, and she was an amazing human. And I ended it because I basically said, I can't be the person you need me to be. I can't. I want to be. I want to be that guy that can provide for you something. And it was a hard conversation, and I just said, I love you to death. And it was even harder because our family came from unlimited sources of money, and my ego and my pride was like, I have to be the man that could do this. And so I ended that relationship, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start trying to find what I'm going to do. And then they just kept going back in full circle, which is like, there's nothing else I can do. There's nothing else I can do. Like, there's nothing, like what? I'll do real estate. Okay, I'll try. And I'm like, And it's like this whole thing of I kept going back to Jim Carrey's acceptance speech, where he talks about how his dad, did his old job the whole life, and then he died, and this whole thing. And he's like, but he hated his job. He's like, at least you can do the thing you love. You'll be broke, but at least you're gonna do the thing you love. And I always just go back to that whole thing of like, all right, I can't do anything else. This is the cards that are dealt, in the sense that like my brain will not be happy not creating, not being in this world, because this is what I'm passionate about. And so it was like a year. I took a year off. That was when I was working a lot with my charity, and I was working a lot with just not making it about me. And I always tell everybody, if you get to that point of like depression, you get to that point of sadness, you get to that point of like, I give up, I don't know what I'm gonna do, take that time to focus on other people. That's it. Because once you start focusing on other people, helping other people out, doing anything you can do that doesn't make it about you, the world and your brain has a weird way of start making things figure themselves out.
How do you find something, a cause that you can get behind?
It's based on the human. We all have our own core values and our own core things. I don't want to force anybody to jump into something they don't want to do. It's either you want to or you don't. That's it. And I think, my sister is a really strong influence on me with that world. She's really big about making it not about yourself. And that was part of my influence. But that's me. That's my journey. And I think if you have an influence, you should hopefully try to make a good out of it. I know lots of people that don't.
Yeah. You're completely right about that. When you enroll other people in it, especially other celebrities, or really anybody, if you make it not about you and more about the cause and the bigger vision, then I think you'd be really surprised about the people that are willing to help.
Yep, we're all artists.
Yeah, I'm frankly surprised at the caliber of people that I've been able to get on this show in such early days. I mean, we're taping this right now, and it's pre-release. It hasn't even been released yet, and I've had so many amazing people reach out and say, hey, I get what you're doing, I want to help, such as yourself.
You want to know the key to that? This is my key to that. And this is something my sister taught me when I first came out to the industry. She said, be the best version of yourself, be kind, be nice, be good to people. Period. You are a good person. You are, every time I've always interacted with you, and I was always like, yeah, I love Jay, that's great. Like, you've never, and that at your core is what, if I could tell actors to not be fake about it. Just be the best person you can be to people in this industry, because I guarantee you, 8 years from now, you're gonna have a moment when you're gonna make a phone call, and this person is gonna either answer it or not answer it based on their interaction with you 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And that's the industry. And so, if you call them, yeah, do it. Dante Bosco is another perfect example. Dante at his core is the best person I know at exactly what you just said, to even just fans. He remembers everybody's names. He's amazing at what he does, and that's sort of the people I surround myself with, is people like that. And that's why I say you have success, is because at your core you are a good person, and you're good to work with. You're a hard worker, and yeah.
Well, thank
you.
I appreciate that. And you yourself, I've always known you to be such this generous person. I know that you've provided opportunities for me also early in my journey of learning, wearing all these different hats in the filmmaking industry.
Yeah.
And
the hats, right?
And we have mutual friends who certainly think the same of you. So thank you for being you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. I want to talk about your reality show.
Which one?
Career.
Which one?
Any of them.
Oh, the most recent one, my love life?
Yeah, if you want to talk about that. I wasn't going to go there, but if you're volunteering.
Oh no, it's what everybody asks me now. It's a thing. So I did do Vanderpump Rules. Yep, that happened. I was dating a amazing, kind woman named Sheena. I dated her 10 years ago when I first came to town. We were like two 21-year-olds that were just, oh wow, longer than that, wow. But yeah, we dated a long time ago. And we were just two humans just interacting and just living life, and didn't work out just because we were just living life. And it still became, still we're great friends throughout the whole time. She got married. Long story short, she got a divorce, and we started hanging out again. And it was the same person I knew, and it was awesome. But she happened to be on the show that's on Bravo called Vanderpump Rules. It was quite the experience. I really did not want to do the show. Just because it wasn't me. It wasn't really like, I didn't understand the world. I didn't trust the world of what that show is, just because I saw what it was. And it's a bunch of people who were just like, it's war on set. And long story short, I did it for her, and did it for free. Did it for just in general. Just she needed me to do it, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was hard. It was a hard experience, because what you saw on the show was the very first week we were filming. The castmates thought the girls wanted to get in between she and I's relationship, and so they made up a rumor that I ran into a bar when she and I were walking down the street, ran into a bar and made out with the hostess, and then ran back out and started walking with and I was like, not only was the story so ridiculous, but it was also like the first week of filming. And I just remember I was driving up to Big Bear with my buddy Jake at the time, and she calls me and she's like, hey, by the way, pineapple or something. It was like her code word, like there's cameras on. And she goes, hey, I need to ask you this question right now. Did you do this? And I go, huh? And I just remember my heart just like dropped, and everything about me just like got destroyed. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing in the world. And I'm like, that's why I didn't want to do this. Because that's at the same time I just started my new company. And I had, I think at this time, 15 employees, and I was working like 60, 70-hour weeks. And I was just like, why? And for me, cheating is a huge thing. Like the being known as that it was just like a huge thing that I was like, I can't. And I'm also doing it for free. I'm like, what's the point of me doing this? Like, why? And then the whole show was basically you're watching a show where a boyfriend is pulling farther and farther away from her in a relationship, and she's trying to overprotect and compensate for that while we're filming.
Well, we all know how, in reality, a lot of that narrative is driven by producers manipulating things.
And my whole thing was like, look, I'll be part of your show. Just keep the drama between them. If anything, if it works out really good, I'm letting you know I'd be great for the show, because it's going to add, it's like who I am at my core. It's a lot of fun and wild and this, and it'll be great. But after the first week, I was just like shutting down, and it was that. But it played out very good for TV. I still feel bad for her. I feel like she got an edit where it made her look bad, but I have so much respect for her for like protecting me, having my back, and it's just it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch because it's like I still have so much love, but it's like unless you're that for me, like any relationship, you have to feel safe and secure. And if you can't trust in that basic relationship, and the hard part was I trusted her, but I didn't trust the show and the world. It's like, how can you be in a world that you don't feel safe? And I just said, look, maybe we'll date when your show's over.
Yeah. So how's that relationship today?
Oh, we talk almost never. Yeah, it's great. No, the hard part was it was getting to the point where it was too hard for her to talk to me. And so she said, look, I need you to stop talking to me, because it's like, I'm in this and I know you're not, and I need you to like give me the space. I'm like, I respect that. And so there's moments where I like want to reach out, like, how you doing, checking in, like, which was probably good because I think the last season ended filming, and I probably would have like reached out to her again and tried to like reconnect and try to like make it work. But what if they film one more season?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a core of trust, like the core thing of like, if I can't trust your close friends, like life is hard enough as it is, and everybody on the show is making life harder. That's not a good core. Like if Jay's making my life harder, I'm not gonna hang out with you, Jay. like that's it. Like if you're making my life harder, I'm like, Jay's a dick. I'm not hanging out with Jay. Like that's just like, I don't surround myself with dicks. Yeah. That's a bad analogy, but like listen, I don't surround myself with people who make my life harder. Yeah. I surround myself with people who make life better. And I think we all try to do that. So that was that show. We don't talk that much. I actually haven't ran into her, luckily, in the last like 6-7 months. But that's going to be an interesting conversation when we run into each other. I'm probably just going to run up and give her like a big hug, and like she'll probably not give me a big hug.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, she sounds like a wonderful person, and we certainly wish her luck. And
yeah, they're killing it. They just got nominated for a People's Choice Award for Best Reality Show. So they're great. Yeah. You never know where your journey is going to go. That's why I saw it. She was an actress trying to make it, and now she's a reality star making a lot of money.
Yeah. So what was your biggest takeaway from that whole experience?
If you want to do reality, just know that you are giving up your all. Like you are out there. It's your world. There's the wall. As an actor, you are protected. You are protected by a character. You are protected by a movie. You're protected by a role. In a reality series, also YouTube, Instagram, these type of things, as an influencer, you are you. You're putting your authentic self out there, and you have to be prepared for people to like it or hate it. And people are mean. I'll tell you that. People, as nice people are, people on the internet, and you could talk to influencers about this all the time, they're mean. There's some nasty people out there that will just say things that are just like, I've never experienced this before in my 10 years of acting. And they're just like, especially to Sheena, they're just so nasty. They love you when they love you, and they hate you when they hate you. And it's just like, I'm like, wow. And so I think the biggest thing I learned was just like, be ready. It's tough. You putting your authentic self out there is tough. And you have to be ready for criticism, because people are going to say the things. And that's the whole thing nowadays. Like, you can click away or type away behind something, and you can hide, and you can really affect. There were days that Sheena would just be breaking down, bawling, crying, just because of how mean people were to her. Just that's another thing we didn't go through years ago was the impact of social media has changed our interaction with our fans.
Yeah, I think especially today, anytime you're out there in the public, generally, you've got to be ready for the criticism. In fact, some people say that if you don't have haters, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah, I mean it's a whole different thing. Yeah.
So, how do you think your way through criticism when you see it?
I try to self-deprecate, or I'm also very sarcastic. So I try to I was interacting a lot in sarcasm, and that was riling him up more, and I got a kick out of it. But at the same time, it's like, you just have to let it go. Like, you really have to let it go. Like, if you can't change it, don't try to mess with it. It's not real. It's one person's perspective, and you have no idea what they're going through in life. So it's not real. Like, you can't let it affect you.
Yeah.
I always love what they do. Is it celebrity reads their own comments about? Do you ever see that? It's
No.
like I forget what talk show it is, but literally what they do is they read tweets about themselves that fans have wrote on their Twitter account about whatever it is, and they'll read it out loud, and then it's just you just have to laugh. It's like you just have to laugh, because it's the things people will say are baffling. Yeah.
So what's the best advice you've ever given?
I think the big thing that I'm on right now is to change the way you perceive making it. And I kind of been doing this rant about like, what is making it? You know, we all have this perspective of it. We all do. And it's not just movies, it's about life. Like women have a perspective of what making it means, like their wedding. Like my wedding's gonna be this. Like that's all the idea of what making it is. And then I think at my core, I've really broken down what making it means. And it simply is breaking down the words. Have you made it? Have you made it? Have you made it? Have you made, if you are a writer, have you written a script? If you are a singer and you call yourself a singer, have you written songs? Have you made an album? Have you made it? Have you made the thing that you want to do? Because really the only person that can answer, have you made it, is you. Because it is not the thing that is like going to make you famous or popular, or this whole idea of perspective of what popularity is, and I have my own view on popularity and fame. But the only person that's going to describe whether you've made it or not, and the only person that can answer that is you. If you want to do something, if you want to create it, have you made it? And once you've made once, make it again, and keep making it, because that is the only thing that is going to make you become successful. And even your vision of successful, what is successful? What is money? The gauge of what money is, fame? It's not real. The only thing that's real is, have you made it? As an artist, that's the only thing we can do. And it's the only thing we can control. So can you control what you're going to create? Have you made it?
Yeah, success is a mindset.
Success is a mindset. Fame is not real. You know, my favorite question someone asked me one day after I got off the Vanderpump Rules show, they said, "Did you only date Sheena so you can become famous?" And I looked at him and I laughed, and I was like, first off, they're not famous. They're popular. They're very popular, and don't get me wrong, incredibly popular. But I made the point, I said, they're like the quarterback in high school that will never make it to the pros. And they took the quote and they said, Robert Parks Valletta says, the cast of Vanderpump Rules like the quarterback in high school that will never make it to the pros. But my whole analogy of the whole thing was like, my version of famous are the people who've made it over and over and over and over and over again. Michael Jordan is famous. You know, Magic Johnson is famous. Leonardo DiCaprio is famous. Steven Spielberg is famous because they have created such a body of work that has, even if they stopped working today, would be remembered for years and years and years and years. They are famous. Now you can become infamous. Snooki is infamous, but you can't go back from infamous. You know, so I always say, I always laugh. I'm always like, you know, we are just in this giant scale of a overskilled high school version of social structures. You know, if you look at why the quarterback in high school was so popular, is because everybody watched him play on Friday nights. Hollywood is an evaluated scale of that. And so, you know, I just, it's a very interesting social structure that we have on this planet. But I always look at it and I go back to it. And I always tell actors when you first start, I always say, just look at high school is the same, that social structure of high school is the same as the world you're in now. The quarterback in high schools are your actors and this and that because everybody sees them and watches them. Your principal is the government watching what you do. And then you have all these little groups that hang out. You know, you have your jocks and the athlete, and like you have all these little groups. The world is just a giant scale of high school, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I'm like, so take it all away, and what do you got? You got the things that you make yourself. Yeah. So.
And this idea of fame that you have, is this something that had to, this definition, is this something that had to evolve through your career?
Yeah. I think I had a different learning lesson than a lot of other people because my sister made it when she was at an early age, but she always said, this isn't real. She's always like, it's not real. People know who I am, but it's not real. And she's always been a really good gauge for me to understand that, like, the moment you think you're popular or successful is the moment you need to check yourself because it's not real. And it's really easy to get addicted to it. And it's going to come like this, and it's going to go like this. Or it might stay forever. But if it stays forever, it doesn't change. You just have a job. We all just have tasks and things that we're doing. Just more people watch us on a Friday night than other people, So it's like, fame's not a real thing. Popularity is not a real thing. It just means more people saw something that you did as your job.
Yeah, great advice from your sister.
Yeah, and so I've always had a different perspective of it than I think a lot of other people. So I don't think I'm popular. I don't think I'm famous. I don't think any of that. I think I have had moments where more people have seen what I did or have seen what I've done, but I hopefully never changes who I'm being.
Who inspires you the most?
I would probably say my dad.
Why?
Because of who he is. And it all goes down to one word, and it's integrity. I've just never met another human being that has as much integrity as he has, and he's so selfless. I always just think, if you strip it all away, all you have left is how you are with other human beings. That's it. And I just want to be a version of what he is, in the sense of like taking in a little 4-year-old boy who wasn't his, raised me as his own. And that showed me there's a better version of myself out there that's not about myself.
So how do you see yourself as a role model today?
Hopefully just inspiring people to just know that there's no one way that this thing's going to work out for you, but that if I sit down and talk to you, that maybe I can just give you some advice that's just going to let you know that where you're going to end up down the road is exactly where you're supposed to end up. And don't stress out about it. Don't get depressed about it. One of my favorite quotes from Oprah of all time is, she goes, name one time stressing out about something changed the outcome. Never does. So just do your work, make it, and you will fall into a place that exactly where you're supposed to be. Might not be what you expected it to be. You might have had a dream of being Bradley Cooper, and then you came out here and you realized you're Robert Parks Valletta, and that's a great place to be. It's a great place to be, because who knows where my journey goes over the next 5 years? This all my shows that I'm doing now, everything could go away. Okay. Guess what? Maybe, hopefully, the people that I impacted that worked at my company is doing something great. I go work at their company. Who knows? But that's the love, that's the joy, this whole happiness that I get out of this whole life. It's like, you never know. And so enjoy it. Enjoy it.
So what are you most excited about now?
So we started a company, and it was a void in the industry. And I saw something that was going on in Europe, a TV show that was going on in Europe. And I was like, what are you doing here? And that comes with asking questions, just being, innately wanting to know what's going on. And I was like, really? Is that possible in the US? And so I did my work. I spent 7 months reaching out to every single network possible, reaching out to over and over, hounding. Finally met a guy named Matt Eisenberg, who works over at CBS. And like I said, everything you've been working on up until that point, whether you view it as successful or not, I've worked on like 25 shows at that time, and I was, in my mind, not successful. I'm quitting the industry because I'm not making it. He hopped on a phone call. We started chatting. He pitched him my concept, pitched him my idea. He said, let me get back to you. Got back to me 2 days later. He said, here's the deal. I get pitched these phone calls hundreds of times a week. He goes, but you have the background. He goes, you're in the industry. You've done more shows than everybody that calls me. And you've done this. And I'm all, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't pay my bills. And you never can take away what someone else's perspective of what you've done is. That's why I say own it. Everything you've done, own it. You've done a short film, own the crap out of that short film. I made it. And so he literally was like, I'll give you a shot. Go for it. Do a show. So after 7 months, got the green light to make my first show, which is This Is LA. And made it with my friends. I was not supposed to be the host of it. My buddy Mike Capes was supposed to be the host of it. I had my friend Neil, who I got Neil working on jobs. I was doing a short film, and I got him working on a job with a short film, and I had my other buddy. So it was all the friends I knew came together to help me make my first episode of the show. And it was right before we started filming the first week, my buddy Mike Capes was like, my YouTube page is blowing up, and I can't do the show anymore, Rob, so I can't host it. And I'm all, what? So I ended up hosting it. Last minute, I was like, maybe I could do this. I'm an actor, I can maybe do it. Worst host ever. Oh gosh, I was a horrible host. I look back at that first episode and I just go, oh, you were not good. But I went for it. I just went all in, and I asked a lot of questions, asked my friends who were hosts, and I took hosting classes, and I was like, what can I do to be better? And then one episode turned into 2 episodes, turned into having 4 people working out of a house, to then we're having 10 people working out of a house. And then we finished our first season of our show. That year I had 11 employees, and we were all going all over the city, going all over the thing. I think we shot 14 episodes of our first season. And then at the end of the first season, we became we were one of the 3rd highest rated local shows in LA. At the end of the first season. Beginning of the season, definitely not. Not after that first episode. But then, it kind of got carte blanche. CBS was like, you can go wherever you want. Do whatever you want to do. So I was like, all right, well, we're on a roll. Let's go to San Francisco. And then I don't know what clicked in my brain. I just said, let's ramp it. Let's go full force. And then we very quickly went from 12 employees to 75 employees. And the second year, we've done 7 shows. And we've made, I can tell you, probably about 100 and maybe close to about 100 episodes of content this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a weekly show?
It's turned into almost a weekly show, yeah. And even then, don't get me wrong, there has been giant lows and big highs and bigger lows and nights where I'm like, can't sleep and I'm stressed out and I have to take my own advice of like, you can't stress anything. One time I was stressing, I'm like, shut up, you're up, you know, you have conversations with yourself and you're like, but now we have 7 shows and I just saw a niche in the industry that wasn't being utilized, and I said, I'm gonna go be the biggest at that. And I've had all my friends who I've worked with for the last 8-9 years be on the show, and it's made the show better. But that's part of why I say, be nice, be kind, work hard, and when it all comes full circle. And the evolution of that is, I don't know. I don't know the evolution of that. I'm excited to see where it goes. Next year, we're gonna have 12 shows. And if it was up to me, I'd have 30 shows. My employees would hate me. But that's like where my brain works. I realize what I'm good at now. I'm good at inspiring other people to create content and inspiring other people to do things because we all want to create. And I come up with crazy ideas all the time of like, oh, let's try this way. Let's try this way. But it all started with just about 2.5 years ago, picking up the phone every single day, sending emails every single day.
Well, it makes that success so much sweeter when you know you've put in the work and it wasn't just handed to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still, I still have moments where, and I understand this when people, when like influencers or people will say like, oh, I want to be in the movies or I want to be like this. I still have moments where I'm like, I go see A Star Is Born. I bring that up a lot because I literally just watched it, and I'm like, man, I want to do that. And you know what? I can do that. I might have to create it. It might not be as big of a success as that movie was, but it might not be seen by many people as that movie has been seen, but I'll still make it. And I'll still do it. But I will be the one to create it. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant perspective on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Rob. Thank you so much.
Jay, thank you so much.
Man.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This is really good water. Is this Aquafina or is this like...
I think it's LA River.
Oh, I can tell it's filtered. It's nice.
Yeah.